I am so excited to speak to our guest today. She is a registered nurse all the way out of Canada. Please help me to introduce Rachel.
Hi, my name is Jonathan McLean, and I'm the founder and CEO of McLean Aesthetics.
Welcome to the dark side.
Let's go.
I'm thrilled to be here with you today, Jonathan. We have a number of exciting topics to cover. And no, I don't just work in Canada, I'm international. I support clients and fellow practitioners all over the world. And I have been doing so since 2017, before Zoom was a thing. And I'm excited to learn some things that I've seen in different clinics that I've taught at and mentored at, and talk about some commonly asked questions in running a practice.
Awesome. Now, Rachel, you are a trainer. You travel all over the world, like you just said. You have your own rejuvenation course, and you also do consulting too. How did you? Let's rewind back before we get to that. Such amazing things that you're doing right now. How did you get inside this industry?
I'll tell you about my nursing journey. Let's start with that. So after I received my bachelor's of science, I realized I wasn't quite done with my education. So then I actually went on to look into becoming a medical doctor myself. Then I did my medical school prerequisites, wrote the MCAT while I was working full-time as a pediatric trach vent ICU nurse, specialized in that field. And then I decided to partner up with an oculoplastic surgeon. And for many of you listening, there are definitely different levels to aesthetics type of practices. So this was a surgical practice, a highly specialized type of clinic. And I wanted to see what it was like to actually run a clinic before becoming a physician myself. And then I quickly realized that I can truly impact my clients' lives and also teach without being a doctor as a registered nurse. However, having that background in my med school prerequisites education, done about 8 years post-secondary now, it helped me learn so much with the general chemistry, organic chemistry, and biochemistry side of skincare, of rejuvenation, with physics as well, with understanding laser technologies, and found my passion in aesthetics. And then thought to myself, well, here we go. I'm at this transition point. Do I continue to apply to medical schools, or do I become a nursepreneur, a nurse entrepreneur? And I'm really happy with my decision because it allows me to provide client care, but it also allows me to train the upcoming generation of aesthetic providers that, in my opinion, the highest type of clinic is actually one that doesn't just focus on skin health, but rather, which, it's the largest organ of the body, how can we optimize this organ? And then I became very much intertwined and part of these different health collectives, interdisciplinary health collectives with other practitioners, primarily in the functional space. And through my many interviews on the Always Radiant Skin podcast, I'm at about 400 interviews and, have been part of about 300 other interviews on other shows. I started to pick up on these key aspects of reducing inflammation, of getting our brains to work better, balancing hormones. All of these play into helping deliver the most powerful outcomes. And then I started to write research articles on it as well. So I'm really excited to have that story and have that background. Since 2011, providing over 20,000 rejuvenation procedures, researcher and clinical trainer for other companies as well. They'll contract me, and then also independent training. So it's a lot of fun. And there's lots of different aspects that I can explore within the way that I work. And truly, my passion is to help practitioners function in a way that will set them apart. And their clients will see this, that, oh, you're actually asking me about, my lifestyle and what's called oxidative stress status to, give me these tools to reduce inflammation so that I can recover faster, so that I can reduce things like hyperpigmentation and skin redness and accelerated aging at home with these tools that I shared through conversations with my clients. We have the opportunity with our aesthetics clients to sit down with them and cultivate beautiful, long-lasting relationships. So that's really what set me apart. It's like, okay, I can teach this. I'm doing this. So here I am now.
Nice, nice, nice. And what does set providers apart from, how can you set yourself apart? Because like you're an entrepreneur, you have your hands in so many things, you're standing above a lot of people that are just going to work and coming home and things of that nature. How can providers stand apart in their everyday work?
Absolutely. The trends that I started to see with a new client coming in to see me, they were saying things like, oh, I went to a clinic and I had a free 15, 30-minute consultation. I felt like I was just being sold package of 6 microneedling PRP, 6 radio frequencies, 6 skin tightening procedures. And, then I meet with you and you're creating a customized plan with me. You're spending over an hour with me, and no other clinic was charging me for this consultation, but you did. And the value of what you shared in this consultation with me was far beyond, the traditional initial client sales pitch that you get at clinics. So that is really what set me apart from what clients were telling me, was that I took the time to listen. I truly cared. I was present, going to just a ton of conferences, gaining so much information, but also understanding this concept of slowing cellular aging and just having beautiful, loving, heartfelt connections with my clients for many years. So that's what's truly unique about the medical aesthetics space and different from the traditional med surg space where you go into a room, you provide your care, you end your shift, and you have to really to actually protect your psyche in a way, have some type of disconnect. And we really are in a beautiful opportunity to make positive impacts in our patients' lives.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. What would you say to the business owner that says, "Hey, Rachel, I understand what you're saying, and that sounds amazing, and but I can only see 8 or 7 patients if I'm spending an hour with each one. How do I maximize my revenue while still giving that supreme patient care that you speak about?"
Absolutely. What's interesting is the traditional model is to say have a 30-minute appointment for a neurotoxin or a 45-minute hour appointment with a laser rejuvenation procedure. And what I started to do was optimize that time together. So I would numb all of my clients before any type of procedure to enhance comfort. That's where my peds nurse in me comes up to enhance patient safety. And people told me, wow, nobody offered numbing before. This is so much more comfortable. I feel so much more cared for. And in fact, when I did a follow-up rejuvenation training session with one of my clients at this beautiful med spa in Vancouver, brand new, she actually is blocking off about 2 to 3 hours for each client. And sometimes I would actually do that so that we can stack procedures. And then when we're talking, I'm providing numbing, doing consent forms, payment, all that time, we are having a conversation of what to do next. So it's not about, trying to tighten up your appointment times as tight as possible, see as many people as you can. Someone would come in for a hydrofacial or some type of a facial procedure like that. And then we would end up adding on a neurotoxin appointment. And so by stacking procedures, you are increasing your revenue. And by charging for consultations, you're reducing those individuals who are just looking for free information, hopping from clinic to clinic, and you're not having as many no-shows. As I believe I could possibly even say this, one of the first registered nurses to actually charge $150 for an initial consultation. I would meet with doctors and they didn't even want to do this approach because they didn't want to turn people away. It's a very good strategic move because most clinics still aren't charging for a consultation. So when clients call and then, support staff, receptionists, office staff say on the phone, oh, there's a consultation fee, it actually tells the prospective client that, oh, there's more value to this one. This is interesting. This is different. And then they show up and then they receive that value in the form of information and customized care. So that's what I found really made my work unique, and not just getting into that model of seeing 7 to 8 clients a day. I would max out at about 4 or 5. And I typically wouldn't do more than 1 or 2 new client consultations in a day, because you're speaking so much and it takes a lot of energy to really sit down and really be with a new prospective client. You have to protect your voice as well. And so those were techniques that I did to increase revenue and allow for the opportunity to actually stack procedures. Now, with having VIP clients come in or out of town clients, you really do want to sometimes set aside 2 to 3 hours so that you can do multiple sessions on them to maximize their time. Because what you don't want to do is, okay, come here for, neurotoxin, 2 weeks later, we'll do this. Learning to stack is absolutely going to increase your revenue.
I love that. I love that. Now let's jump over to consent forms. Now, I know you handle a lot of different things when it comes to consent form. What are some things that practitioners should be looking for and adding to their consent forms?
Absolutely. This is what I recently spoke to in my most recent academic article. And it's talking about the oxidative stress status, or the toxic bucket theory, if you will, and what to look for in skin assessments and also intake forms. So the initial client intake form that I've created is actually quite in depth. Of course, it's going to ask for client demographic information. It's also going to ask for medical history and medication history. Now, you have to also consider that oftentimes the client will leave things out because they don't think it's relevant to the aesthetic procedure. So they'll fill that out. And then when you meet, you're asking different questions about what's your lifestyle like? What's your possible exposure to toxins in your air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, yeast, fungi, parasites, mold, all these things. That's why the consultation piece alongside the intake form is so incredible. The other thing is I provide a picture of a face and a body so that the client can circle the areas that are of concern to them, because they may not know how to verbally write it out. And then I also have a section that asks them what type of rejuvenation treatments that they are interested in, because not everyone in the aesthetic space wants neurotoxins or dermal fillers. So it's important to be sensitive to that, and also their lifestyle, their skin goals, what they're comfortable with, their values as well. These are all important things to consider. So for your aesthetic client intake form, you can gather a lot of information when you have more open-ended questions as well, with calibrated questions using how and what questions. This is also where communication and even negotiation skills come in handy, to really ask how or what questions on the intake form and in the consultation, so that your clients can further expand, so that we're not getting stuck in that clinical mind. Because a lot of the aspect of a client seeking rejuvenation goes much deeper than just wanting to reduce signs of aging. It's also they're wanting to likely step into and transform into a new version of themselves, to be more comfortable making new friends, seeking a new life partner or a business opportunity, and have more confidence. So these are things that, and aspects of rejuvenation, that I feel a lot of clinicians are skimming over, because at the philosophical aspect of beauty and rejuvenation, those are some of the key elements. So in conversation and having those how or what questions on the intake form just allows for the prospective client and patient to expand more, and you'll learn more about them as well and how their mind works and be able to tailor your care to that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, you talk a lot about research, and I know you've done a lot of research studies in the past. Why is research so important to you, and how has that kind of benefit what you do?
Absolutely. So research, being able to publish articles in, US and UK based journals, what research did for me was give me the opportunity to perform what's called literary reviews and also highlight my before and after photos. So I've done extensive papers, multiple papers on periocular eye rejuvenation as well as jawline rejuvenation, and with my recent paper talking about environmental toxins and enhancing the patient assessment lifestyle questionnaire aspects to receive even greater outcomes. And what I started to notice this did and was attracting more clients to me that were more discerning and more serious about this was it was positioning myself as a researcher, not just a clinician. And so this adds to the value of working with someone like me because they know I have my finger on the pulse of the latest and greatest, not just going to the different pharmaceutical funded uh, programs and courses, which are excellent. You definitely want to be going to as many of those as you can. And then putting it all together in research, it just is a layer to add credibility, actually, as a practitioner, and also another layer of trust with your clients. And my clients are proud of me. They love it. They love seeing that I'm not just showing up to do rejuvenation, but that I'm deeply involved in the world of research. And there are different aspects to serving people. And one of those qualities that makes up an excellent personality of a rejuvenation provider is being a bit of a trendsetter and also foreshadowing things and really being able to identify what the gimmicks and the trends are that aren't going to really last in the aesthetic space. We've seen this so much with body contouring and new injectables that we've seen this before, had huge class action lawsuits. So it's not about being a cowboy in the industry. It's about really looking over the research yourself and being critical over what type of technologies you bring in. And I've always had the 7 to 8 year rule. If it hasn't stood the test of time in the aesthetics clinical world, then I would consider that a gimmick or a fad or something that wasn't safe. So we've seen this a lot with different companies that pour a lot into their media and marketing, and they have to. And then the clinics take advantage of these media and marketing advertising funds when you purchase a certain amount of consumables with, especially in the body contouring space, so that it actually gets people in the door so that they actually book the treatments. And I mean, you have to also take into consideration how much of a specific type of device actually constitutes the overall rejuvenation that you're providing. And so we have seen body contouring slip as low to about 2 to 5% of what's offered in the clinic. So it's just important to know about this, especially when you're starting up, to really focus, in my opinion, on what is the most research-backed options, what's been around the longest. So skincare, laser skin rejuvenation, neurotoxins, dermal fillers are really continuing to be the bread and butter in aesthetics practices. So hopefully that will save a number of you a lot of time and money and investments in new technologies. It's often wise to just wait and also wait for the second and third generation or iteration of a new product or procedure. Again, we saw this hugely with body contouring. The second and third generations are always better. They're more comfortable. There's less adverse events and things like that. Of course, better outcomes. So that would be a piece to support why it's important to be a researcher yourself and really critically think about what you're offering.
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Let's switch it over and let's talk about kind of like what are great products right now that you're offering to your clientele. What are you seeing in the market that you kind of live by?
I would say skincare. So a huge part of what I do is e-commerce. And I remember seeing a number of years ago that the average aesthetic client spends about $1,600 a year on skincare. And, with inflation and all that, that was a statistic I saw in 2000 and I would say 13. I would actually postulate that that amount has doubled or even tripled. So I would say having at least 3 to 5 different skincare brands in the clinic, and then doing your due diligence to look at those ingredients, make sure they're free of parabens, phthalates, sulfates, artificial dyes, fragrances, and really selecting the best, most powerful products to have in your clinic. So you're not bringing on every SKU, you're bringing on specific SKUs with focusing on cleansers, moisturizers, antioxidant serums, sunscreens, exfoliants, masks, at-home peels, eye creams, neck creams. I'd say those are some of the key ones to focus on, as well as different products to have in the clinic are also even skin supplements as well to support things from the inside and out. So definitely skincare should be something that each and every client that you work with is walking away with, especially in that first consultation meeting about, a basic protocol, $300-400 worth of cleanser, moisturizer, sunscreen, scrub. And what this tells me, and of course, taking photos before they start their skincare routine as well. And then say when they come and book an initial, hydrofacial or facial session or neurotoxins, you can then take another set of photos at that time. And your patient will already be seeing the differences with less redness, more glassiness. That in and of itself is a great way to also establish trust, number one. And number two, learn if that client is going to be compliant, because there's no point offering a laser session and then they're using, over-the-counter garbage products. They're going to have side effects. They're probably going to have more cases of atopic dermatitis, delayed healing, and skin irritations, which your clinic will get phone calls over. So offering really good skincare products, because in my experience, it's having powerful outcomes is directly related to what the client and patient's doing at home between sessions.
Wow, wow. And that's true, right? That's such a good point, because if you don't have the skincare, all the injectables, all laser are just a waste of time and money.
They absolutely are. Those things will do specific things. However, it comes down to setting the stage for having a solid skin barrier and knowing that patient is going to do what you recommend for their home care, and then have the right products to carry on with. Absolutely.
So you can't go to Ulta.
Yeah, we see a lot of people also buying a lot of skincare products off these third-party auction websites, and there's a lot of counterfeit products too. So when a client comes into your clinic, they can know that these are purchased directly from the manufacturer, as you being an approved distributor for it.
Okay, yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Now, with running e-commerce, training, and seeing your own patients, what do you do to kind of keep work-life balance?
Yes, this is really important. Nobody wants to go to a rejuvenation practitioner who looks worn out, whose brain isn't functioning well, they are experiencing brain fog, that don't look healthy themselves as well. So yes, I do a number of different things. Any entrepreneur is going to say you need at least 7 streams of income. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. This is just smart thinking. So in regards to e-commerce, training, seeing my own patients, the self-care aspect is really important. And this is where you can actually teach what you do to take care of yourself. We should all be serving and leading by example. Our patients are coming to us and they're looking at us in a leadership role. So we really need to set that example. And I think where a lot of aesthetic practitioners fall short is they don't have a fine line or a wrinkle on them. However, they don't have a lot of like emotional intelligence or communication skills to truly identify what that patient is truly seeking. They just, we can get stuck in our own clinical mind and can have a hard time relating or even conveying and communicating with our clients. So I definitely reading up on different communication style books, which is absolutely one of the things that I share in one of my other programs, which I think a lot of listeners would get a lot from. Because when you're doing a consultation and you're sitting with a client, you need to have very open body language so that who you're talking with feels safe and they feel confident with you. And also being able to have an exchange, a positive exchange with your body language, with your speech, with your hand gestures as well. And I hear a lot of aesthetic clients talking a lot like this when I'm on social media. And for the highly discerning aesthetic client that is typically aged 40 to 70, they are very different than, say, a practitioner who's in their 20s or 30s. They want to be able to relate to you. So if that practitioner who's a little bit younger in their 20s and 30s is speaking in a way that doesn't sound very intelligent and they have a lot of uptalk in the way that they're speaking, that automatically, for the highly discerning, let's just face it, the ideal aesthetic client, they have money to spend on rejuvenation. They're probably pretty smart themselves in the businesses and ways that they live as well. So to truly attract those ideal clients that are lovely to work with, you have to make sure that your communication skills are on point and that when you're showing up, you have the energy to be there with them. Your mind isn't scrambled thinking about the next patient or the patient that you were with before. You really have to be ultra present. And so learning things like present moment awareness is really important so that your patient doesn't feel like, they're just a dollar sign, because that's how a lot of clients feel when they're going into aesthetics clinics as well. So looking after, as the practitioner, your body, mind, spirit, energy practices, as well as keeping your toxic load as empty as possible. And yes, rejuvenation procedures do contribute to a degree of the toxic bucket analogy that I refer to. So it's just really important that you keep your cup full so that you can continue to fill others' cups and leading by example and being healthy.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can definitely agree with that. Now, let's talk about the front desk position. How big is a front desk position to a practice?
Everything, absolutely everything. When a new client is sending an email inquiry or they're calling, they're hoping for, when they get an email response back or they're on the phone, that they're actually talking to someone who can explain, before and after care, who can explain exactly what different rejuvenation procedures you're going to offer. They're often always asking for pricing as well. So you can give a range of pricing. Some people do have pricing on their website, which does lend to increased SEO searchability. However, your staff can give, broad pricing and then basically say, when you have your consultation, that's when your specific program will be outlined for you, and you'll have a more accurate idea of what our practitioners are going to deem as being in your highest benefit and what that looks like. It's also really important to have the front desk and MOAs and receptionists be also part of the conversations with the clinical trainers that come in with the products like injectables, lasers, body contouring, and also the skincare reps, and using these products and experiencing these products themselves so that they can, from their heart, truly say, oh, I loved my results from this procedure. I'm sure you will too. And they're the ones that are actually doing a lot of the skincare purchasing. So when a client comes in and they have a question, oh, what retinol should I use? What skin brightening type of serum? I want to address, this hyperpigmentation. I might not have the funds to do a laser right now or the time. What can you suggest? So front desk MOAs, office staff are key with the team. And say for some of you, you don't have that. You don't have that as part of your clinic. Maybe it's just yourself and maybe someone else. There are ways to reduce the questions on the phone and over email by really taking the time to outline everything in the consultation and actually have on the consultation follow-up information, whether it's on, a type of a bifold menu. Okay, we're going to do this. This is the price. We're going to do this and this as well. This is the timing I recommend. That works really well too. And then in that menu, you're providing information on the procedure itself, including pre and post care, so that your client has that. And then you can also follow that up in like a PDF type of template.
Yeah.
That's a huge way to limit answering the same questions over and over again that your front office staff will do. And it'll just streamline the process. They already have that information when they first met you.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with that. That's 100%. And front desk is just, it really is so important to any practice. If you don't have a front desk in there, that's really great. Like you said, your sales are going down. And not only sales are going down, but people look at the front desk as a representation of your whole practice. So you could be great at what you do, but if a client is coming in saying, I had a horrible service checking in, that goes against you too, as a provider.
Also, the way that they appear.
Yeah.
So I've seen this a lot when I've gone into clinics. I've gone into clinics all over North America. If the front office staff look really, really overdone, that's also going to turn away a lot of the, what I would consider the ideal client. Also, the imaging and branding on the website of what the staff look like are really important too. Now, looking a certain way is seen more in bigger cities, right? Some people are seeking that type of look. However, it's really important for aesthetic practitioners to follow the ideal facial ratios and not go beyond that and lose perspective and actually develop body dysmorphia themselves as practitioners. I do see this. And that in and of itself of looking overdone will actually limit the amount of inquiries you're going to get. And I realized this pretty early on in my career when I started to go to evening and weekend learning events, that I was looking around the room, and this is when I was in my mid-20s starting out, and just seeing how overdone a lot of my colleagues looked. And I made a decision very early on to not look like that, because it's important that we have an awareness on the ideal facial ratios. And part of my board certification is to also have an awareness of body dysmorphia and to not exhibit that yourself and also as your staff, and to not attract that, because those that have been overdone, there typically is a degree of body dysmorphia, which it's then the practitioner's professional responsibility to determine that. And that's why asking those questions of what medications someone is on, whether they're on antidepressants or other type of medications, can give you insight to that, as well as questions like, what were your last experiences like at previous aesthetics clinics? That can also tell you a lot also of, if they're bad mouthing clinics, they're probably going to bad mouth your clinic too at some point. It's just kind of how they function psychologically. And those are the clients that are going to take the most amount of your time and be the most headaches.
Yeah, exactly. You have to fire some clients too. So, you have to be careful on who you decide.
Yeah, you have to do it in a really professional way. So say, for example, there's this one very beautiful woman. She met with me, and she actually previously worked at another clinic that were very much known as over treating their clients. And she was saying, people can't sit down on the chair without spending at least $2,000 to $3,000 at a time. That was expected. And her chin was so overdone that it was actually starting to droop. And then I was also picking up on some psychological illness aspects too.
Yeah.
And so I very kindly said to her, I don't think that the way we practice is in alignment with what you're looking for, because what we work with here are the ideal facial ratios. So I do actually recommend that we dissolve some of the past filler that you've had to basically allow your ideal facial ratios to be in better alignment, because we kind of, we might look a certain way looking forward, but then when we look at side profile, there's over projections of the lips and of the chin. And so very lovingly pointing that out, that we could actually dissolve this and it will actually make you look more beautiful. But that's something you have to be comfortable with. So a framework like that is really helpful, so that you're not saying, oh, I don't think this is a great fit. I think you have body dysmorphia. We can't say that. We have to say we work with the ideal facial ratios. We're not into doing an overdone look, which I think you've been used to having before. So if that fits with you, great. Or I've been able to frame it with this one patient I'm thinking about. I would say before doing rejuvenation that maybe even having some counseling sessions around this, why you're wanting to do rejuvenation. Are there other aspects of your emotional wellness that you might want to address first, so that you're feeling happy on the inside and not just seeking rejuvenation to fill something?
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Rachel, so much for sitting down with me and speaking more about the aesthetic industry. I'm sure people will gain a lot of value from this and takeaways. Tell everybody where they can find you if they're interested in speaking to you about your services or just want to chat and ask you some industry questions.
Absolutely. Believe it or not, I've had a number of other doctors and nurses book a consultation with me. So that's on my website at rachelvarga.ca. Use promo code mini series for 15% off as a thanks for listening here. So mini series. And that allows them to actually get a sense of just how deep my consultations go, and also the ratios of how much time I spend talking and teaching and how much time I spend listening. Okay. So, and just how deep it goes, what my intake form looks like, what my follow-up materials look like as well, and resources that I share. So I hear that a lot. And then I also do one-on-one teaching and coaching for other aesthetic practitioners too. You can find that on my website as well, and the main website to book an initial hour together to discuss your practice, ways that I can see myself helping you and supporting you, what your goals are, values, things like that, how things are structured, how we can optimize things. I like to have an initial call first. So that's where you can book a one-on-one call. And then I offer online for yourself and your team 1 to 2 days of training where we cover everything from skincare basics, the overview of technology-based rejuvenation, the injectable information, as well as showcasing techniques. I have a number of my procedures recorded, so you can actually watch me perform certain procedures and learn my techniques that way, as well as in-clinic international training as well is something that's available too. However, before the international training, we often will do a 1-hour time together to just make sure it's a good fit, and then even do those 1 or 2 days of online learning first. And then when I come into the clinic and observe, then you already have that background information. I've just found that flow works the best. So that's all at rejuvenationtraining.com. And you can, again, use promo code mini-series for special savings on that too. And if you have any direct questions, feel free to email me, info@rachelvarga.ca. And I'm essentially here to help elevate the medical aesthetics industry and looking at what top longevity clinics are doing across the globe, and then also bringing this into the aesthetics world as well. So really that's my mission, is to provide the highest level of care. And yeah, at the end of the day, that's a big part of what I'm here to do.
Awesome. Awesome. And you guys go check her out, use that code. And until next time, bye.